Okay, so I'm currently putting makeup on and doing my hair. But I will sit here and discuss because I unfortunately read that in its entirety.
Okay. You can start off. I just am getting my computer restarted. It wouldn't load Notablog. So I just thought,
Eric, I am doing a solo live. I promise you I am. At 3:00. I've got it in my stories at 3:00. So in an hour and 18 minutes.
the amount of effort it's gotten to get Ashley and Chelsea on their own solo lives is insane. But I am so Eric, I'm not enabling her. I'm so proud of Ashley going on. She's going to be on live. So that would be what, 4:00 Central for us.
Yes.
Central people.
Yep. Well, I just thought that he would have a lot more dramatic criticisms, and maybe he's coming out with more stuff that he has to say, but a lot of it seemed super petty. Okay, no, Eric said 2 p.m. Central.
Okay,
for you guys.
Okay. Why is my computer not loading anything? Okay, is it going?
So I have to put in my necessary solo time so I can host these. How many solo lives do I have to do? Is it like within a set period of time?
You're asking the wrong person. I don't. I've just gone live so much that I just think I've just done it. Eric was was on one of my very first lives. Do you remember that, Eric? Like I was in the middle of my second ever reread, and you were asking me questions, and I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't remember anything in dance. And it was just so funny, but he kept me company the entire time. That was a long time ago, like 2022. Remember that? Okay, finally, it has popped up. Wait, this is not it. No, no. What is going on? I want the 4th. Why is my computer being weird? Did he delete it?
No, shut up.
Where is it at? The suspense is killing me because nothing is freaking loading in my house. Let's see if I can do it this way. Not. Okay, everybody's saying that the blog is still live. He did delete it. He deleted it. Oh my god, I didn't even get to read it all. Oh my god, he did. He freaking deleted it. I didn't even get to read it all. I'm so mad. I'm gonna call my mom and be like, Mom,
he absolutely.
And I can't read the damn thing.
Y'all, I checked it. He absolutely did delete it. So.
God damn it. Okay, so tell me what. Okay, so I read it all the way up to where he was talking about Maelor and Maelor's,
Yeah. Okay. So one of the biggest criticisms that I read in there was he had issues with how Blood and Cheese played out.
Yeah.
And apparently he and Ryan had a conversation. He talked about how it wasn't super heated, but it was kind of heated. And he didn't want to go. Well, the thing about it is I also watched the podcast with Ryan, and he talked about how, he's read Fire and Blood several times. He has a lot of respect for George, but there's some things that are just not there's some things that you have to do for TV that you may not necessarily want to cut out, but it's just for the better of the show. Now, I am not taking HBO's side in this. They definitely did some stuff that I didn't personally like. Cregan's screen time was nothing. Cregan had less time in the show than he did in Fire and Blood. Like, we got more of Cregan and Jace in Fire and Blood than we did in the show. And that's crazy. Absolutely insane.
I read up to the point where he was talking about the butterfly effect. Like, if they're just going to completely omit, Maelor's story.
Well, then yeah, he has such a problem with that. He's like, how is that going to play out now without Maelor? And it's like, George isn't really taking into account that they made Helena a dragon dreamer in the show. So that's going to look a lot differently. That's why Blood and Cheese looks so different, because the tragedy of it all is that she dreamt it and she didn't fully understand what the dream meant. She just knew that it was bad. And then in that moment when she realizes it, she understands that it's too late and that there's nothing she can do. And yet she still tries to do something. Like, it's that whole thing. Like, the grief and the sadness that I felt in that scene was all coming for Helena. And I thought that it was very powerful. I don't think that the whole Sophie's choice is what he called it. And that's what it was in Fire and Blood. I don't think it was necessary, because she still technically had to make a choice. It was either try to save Jaehaerys or escape with Jaehaerys.
He agreed with the gripes about her offering the necklace instead of her life. He agreed with the gripes on that, which I get it. I get it. But
like, also at the same time, you have to think from Helena's perspective, and this is where the Dragon Dreamer thing plays in. From her perspective, she knows that it's not going to work, but she has to try anyway because this is her son. So for her, it's like, I have to try something. I know it's not going to work, but I can't just not do anything. And that's the real tragedy of it all. And that's what makes it so fucking sad.
Oh, wow. Now Notablog is just down.
Well, that could be it. Maybe he didn't delete it. Maybe the website's just down.
No, because September 4th is completely gone. Only thing that's showing is September 3rd. All it is September 3rd. And I'm just kicking myself because I wasn't trying to be rude to my mom, and I really wanted to read it. But, and then I made her read it. I was like, okay, just read it to me while I'm driving. And then she started talking about, Helena and Jaehaerys, and I was like, oh wait, no, you can't read this because she's literally starting this show tonight. She finally gave in. She's like, you know what?
I mean, maybe that's why he deleted it, because he did put spoilers in there for season 3. So maybe that's why he did.
He put a spoiler warning though, and he's like, look.
Yeah, I honestly, I think he probably read that and was like, well, maybe this does sound a little petty.
Yeah, I mean, I get his gripes. I get it. But then again,
he said in his original blog post, everything that went wrong with House of the Dragon. Yes. And then he compared House of the Dragon season 2 to Gloom, because he was like, but today is not for gloom and things like that. Today is Zobra's day. And it was so dramatic and it was so over the top. It was like, oh, I hated it. It was terrible. Like, the whole thing was trash. And it's like, dude, when you compare to what Dane and David did, George, this was so much better. This was so much better. And it's clear that Ryan has a lot more respect for you than they ever did.
Right.
So, but at the same time, I look at it this way as well. If it's me and this was my life's work and HBO had already bungled it one time, I'm not giving them a second chance. And yet he has said that 7 things are in the works. I mean, including A Night of the Seven Kingdoms and Aegon's Conquest. So, George, you keep signing off on this stuff.
Exactly. He keeps on giving them more and more and more. And he's just like, he put us in suspense. It's like, hey, here's all the things that I'm going to say that's wrong with it. And then, all of us are just, digesting it. You have all these gripes against it, but you keep giving them more, and you're signing away your rights to it. And then you're going to sit here and say, this is all the stuff that's wrong. And then our rebuttal is finish the books.
Well, and then my thing is that Fire and Blood is subjective. George, And that is what Ryan also talks about in the podcast, is that it is a subjective story. It's told from 3 biased perspectives. And the only perspective who was actually there was Mushroom, and Mushroom's a liar.
And we don't even meet any of them. We don't even meet any of them in the show. There's no Mushroom.
So, I had somebody in my comment section the other day in that video that I posted about it, and they were like, "Oh, well, Rhaenyra wasn't chubby and spoiled," which I would argue that yes, she is spoiled. More and more so all the time. I just think that the people who love Rhaenyra don't want to see it, but she is absolutely spoiled. And and it's how she was raised. She was raised a royal, so why wouldn't she be spoiled? Right. So that's something that you can expect from a character who has lived that kind of life. That's just what she is accustomed to. But then he was criticizing the smallest things, oh, Helena is autistic and she's not that way in the book. Well, how do you know? We see Helena for 2 seconds in Fire and Blood. We don't know really anything about her. We get a couple of quotes from her and then it's done. And then she's dead. Spoiler warning, everybody. So I don't understand the upset there, because it's not like with Dan and David, they had 5 solid books to go off of, which I would argue that allowing someone to adapt a book to a show without a finished series, when George is the kind of writer that he is, was probably not a good idea, but that's neither here nor there because it's done. But also they had canon books to work off of, and yet they chose time and time again, starting as early as season 2, to divert from it. And then you see it a little bit more in season 3. Actually, no, a lot of it more, because Rob's story is drastically changed, except for even the Red Wedding is different. And then by the time you get to season 5, nothing about season 5 is like A Dance with Dragons. Nothing. And that the crazy part of that is that book 5, A Dance with Dragons, is so large that it could have been split into 2 seasons. And they didn't do that. So I truly don't understand George's upset, because it just, from my perspective where I'm sitting, it seems like Ryan had a lot more respect for him. So they went against Game of Thrones time and time again this season. Very obviously so.
The show is making unnecessary changes that hurt the story. Yes, and also it's what he said in the post, the butterfly effect. I call it also the ripple effect. You make one change, it changes the rest of the story, because there are some important factors for Maelor being there. I guess in Cheese, ultimately, there was a choice. Helena had 3 kids in that room, and Helena chose Maelor because Maelor wouldn't understand what was happening because he was so young. And then Cheese is it's, we're going to take Jaehaerys because, and your mom wanted you dead. That line, your mom wanted you dead. It's just
yeah.
So, and what he says in there is so graphic in the book that it kind of was underwhelming for book people to see Blood and Cheese. Okay, Taryn, check the blog. Okay, checking the blog. Maybe he had to make some edits, because there was a couple of grammatical errors. Not that really... Again, I guess there's just so much traffic on it right now. Let me do a refresh. Oh my God. No, it's still not there.
Yeah, I can't get it to upload. I was trying.
Yeah, I hit blog home and it still just pulls up September 3rd. So, the dynamic about what happens in the chamber whenever Blood and Cheese happens. Helena offers her life. In the show, she offers a necklace. Maelor's not there for her to pick Maelor. And then George is saying...
But I think, like I said, I think her being a dreamer changes a lot of it, because in the book, she has no idea that any of that's going to happen. In the show, she literally has a vision of it.
Yeah.
It's probably in that dream or in that vision, whatever you want to call it. She probably saw something like Jaehaerys being devoured by rats. Yeah. It was probably something along those lines.
Yeah, because you said that I'm scared about the rats.
Yes. I'm still going solo. I'm just here tagging along with Taryn for a bit.
Yeah, and oh my god, I'm just so mad I missed that second part of it. I was almost done. I had like 2 paragraphs left of the blog.
He might have had to, he might need, maybe he just needed to make some edits.
Maybe he's just editing. I'm not enabling Ashley. She's going to go live.
Eric, I will be live in 1 hour. 1 hour. 62 minutes. I promise you shall see me.
She's getting ready right now to do it.
Well, I'm getting ready because I'm going out right afterwards, but...
Oh, do you see I'm wearing the Spirit jersey you got me?
So cute! I'm getting your Star Wars one on Friday.
So excited. And I'm also wearing Tessarion today.
Oh yes, I have on my Tessarion too. Like I love it so much. I had to order a chain. I had to order a chain for Sunfire because I do have, like, Charlotte has a gold chain, but hers is so much smaller because, her little neck. So I couldn't use it.
Oh.
So I had to order another one.
Oh, is Chelsea wanting in? Okay. Oh, yep, she does. Okay. All right. We got a game here.
Yeah. Hello. Hi. Hello. Hi. We're still... Oh my gosh, Eric's going to be so irate. Like, they're not doing their solos.
I will.
Yes, I am going to. I am still going to. I'm going to be doing a solo live because, guys, right now, I just finished the reread. So I finished that. And today, just for funsies, I've been finishing up listening to just Jaime and Cersei's chapters. And it's so much fun. And I actually, Chelsea, that theory that you had about Jane Westerling being the more beautiful queen, I noticed that Jaime first hears mention of Jane, and then the chapter right after that is Cersei dreaming of Maggie.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I see you, George. Mm-hmm. I see you. You're not slick.
Yeah. When I finish the reread, one of the first videos I want to make is on Jane Westerling, the Spicer Women, and Maggie the Frog, and how I think that is going to play a part in Cersei's prophecy.
Well, it's also, George always does stuff like that. Like when Dany sees the Blue Winter Rose, and John also has his chapter right there next to hers where he's being told the story of Bael the Bard. And it's like, that's not a coincidence. Right. So for Jaime to hear about Jane being inside, inside there, and then right after that, Cersei having her dream about Maggie, I was like, yeah, that's not a coincidence.
Yeah. That's why, I always encourage people, if you have a favorite character or a couple favorite characters, POV characters, you should read the entire series just their POV straight through, because without the interruption of, distraction, side stories, you are picking up so much about their direct arcs. Mm-hmm. Because he does that a lot, how it, one chapter ends with one topic and then the next Cersei chapter begins with a topic that is clearly going to be related.
No, Sarah, I just hit refresh on my browser and it's a 500 internal server error, and then I am going to refresh on my iPad.
We're crashing George's blog.
It's still September 3rd.
Honestly, that wouldn't be surprising to me if that's what's happening. Is so many people are getting on there because they're like, "Holy crap!"
No, I'm serious. Look at my ghost locket.
Anybody screenshot the last part of it?
It's so pretty.
Is Is it
Ghost ended up being my favorite so far.
I love Ghost. I love it. I love it so much. Love you, Sativa. Have a good meeting.
Oh, bye. I didn't even know.
I'm
so excited for the A Song of Ice and Fire, like the book lockets. I'm so excited because
I was actually just going to say, I just wanted to get on and say hi because the reason why I'm in the app is because I need to record the announcement video.
I'm so excited.
Me too. So I have like the listing is ready on Etsy. It's a draft. So I'm going to make the announcement video with like all of the examples, post that. Then I think I'll go live after I post it.
Yeah.
And like just talk about some of the examples. And then, yeah, it'll be live on Etsy.
I got to get on the horn and make some phone calls. So my live is not going to be too much longer. But
yeah, and my live, Eric, starts in 1 hour.
I wanted to let you know that Ashley and I are both wearing Tessarion right now.
Yes.
Love it. It makes me so, like, one of my favorite things is, like, there's another creator on here. Her name is Lexi May, and she bought a Viserion locket. And, like, she'll just make content, and she's wearing it. You know, that's not the point of the video that she's making. She's doing her other content, and it just makes me so happy to see them in the wild.
Well, I have so many lockets now that I just like, depending on what I'm wearing, I'm like, oh, okay, so the green and Rhaegal would look good with this. Okay, so the blue and the Ice Dragon would look good with this one. So I just wear, like, I literally wear a locket every day.
That's amazing. I love it. You guys are the best. Okay, I'm going to hop off so that I do the things I'm going to do.
Okay, Chelsea, we will see you soon on live.
Bye.
Bye. Jazz, if you have the screenshots, my Instagram is linked to my page. You can send the messages to me on Instagram if you wanna.
I need to do that. Link my Instagram to my TikTok.
Yeah, I get a bunch of, well, whenever my personal one was linked, it's private, so I had to like approve people. I'm like, dang, there's a lot of requests, and I like wouldn't approve anybody because that's my personal one. I'm like, well, I need to get a different one, so I got the different one, so now I linked that one, so now everybody can just go in willy-nilly. All right, I'm gonna do a refresh one more time on this.
Yeah, hopefully that comes back up because, like, I still wanted to read it one more time.
For all the collectors among you, signed copies are all three available at Beastly. If only you would restock your books at Beastly so I can buy some.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't have an Instagram. Where did? Okay. Well, I don't know what else, another way to send it to me. I don't know. I'll just be in.
I'm sure if you keep refreshing, it's going to come back up. Or
he probably received some backlash, especially talking a little bit, especially for like the stuff that he was saying about Ryan. I just thought that was kind of, I wouldn't say it was mean, but like the dude is adapting your work, and you're saying that.
But yeah, and I mean, and I'm just saying, like, I don't feel like we got nearly enough energy or nearly enough hate from George aimed at Dan and David. Like, dude.
Exactly. I was just like, why
aren't you more angry at them? Like,
where's your outrage? Where's your outrage with the season finale of Game of Thrones? Where was that energy? Because
where is his outrage for seasons 5 through 8? I mean, well, I know that he was irritated, but I did not feel like as much, like, this seemed so petty. I know he's the author, and I have so much respect for George. I think he's the greatest fantasy author of all time.
I agree.
But at the same time, this is silly.
Yeah, I mean, all this energy when we could be writing a book.
Yeah, I don't think we're ever seeing that book.
No, at this point, I'm kind of just.
I was really like getting that hope back with Worldcon, and then nothing. So I was like, you know what? I need to let it go.
I think we do, because I don't see it. I don't see it happening, because what I've said over and over again If he wanted to, he would.
Oh yeah, if he wanted to sit down and take the time to do it, he would, and he's not. So, and I mean, and that's the thing, is that there's all kinds of ways that you can get yourself out of a hole. If he's written himself into a corner, there's so many different avenues and resources that he could use to get himself out of it. So I just think that from George's perspective, maybe he's just like, maybe this is one of those things, a lesson learned, that you don't allow shows or movies or anything like that to be adapted from your books until you're finished. I mean, I know it's not that way for every author. I know that there have been a few authors who have not finished their series while stuff is in production, but they finish up. But that's not the type of writer that George is. So,
you know, and be it as it may, what type of author she is, Sarah J. Maas just had so many problems with how they were adapting and writing A Court of Thorns and Roses, because it was in talks for almost 2 years in the writing room, that she was a stone wall on some of the things they just wanted to change. And then ultimately it was just scrapped. It was just, I get it. And I stand with her with, it becoming an adaptation. If you don't want certain things changed and they're saying, well, we're not going to write it if you don't, become fluid with some of the decisions, that she just hard stopped it. And, more power to her. That's your work. That is your time, your energy that you release, and it being received from us readers as a phenomenon of the fantasy world. Well, I would say romantasy. And if for just to be scrapped like that because you didn't like it, well, more power to you. And I think that.
Well, I'm going to say something. I'm going to say something a little controversial, and people are probably going to get upset with me, but whatever. I think that, George saying that he was upset with Ryan and things were not that it wasn't heated, but it was kind of heated. I honestly think that for someone who could have just been like, you know what, I just don't want to do this anymore. I feel like this is about the money for George, because and I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong. Maybe he's just really excited about these books being adapted to screen. Maybe it's nothing like that. But I just feel like creatively, if his views aren't lining up with HBO's and HBO isn't doing what he's asking them to do, and they're consistently disappointing him, I don't see why you keep going back unless he's just a glutton for punishment or it's about money.
Okay, someone said it was on Twitter, so I'm looking at Twitter right now. Westeros.org. What is it? Yeah, Westeros.org. Elio and Linda. Beware of the Butterflies. That's the name of it. I know it's all the, so Westeros.org, which is the Elio and Linda page, just have the direct link to Notablog, so it's not on that. I found a link, you can read it. Want me to send it to you? Yes, please send it to me. You can just send it on Twitter. My Twitter is linked too, so if y'all want to send it on Twitter. Yeah, I went to Westeros.org. It's all direct links to Notablog, so there's not screenshots. Yeah, send it to me. My handle is Zombie Taryn, I believe. Yeah, Zombie Taryn.
It's out there. That blog post was up for long enough.
The archive. That's where I went, I thought. To the archive. Okay. You can read the post at archive. Okay, here we go. Okay, okay, I got it from the archive.
Oh.
Okay, let's see to where we're at. Okay. Will any of this appear on the show? Maybe, but I don't see how. The Butterflies would seem to prohibit it. You could perhaps see Sir Rickard's ward be Jaehaera instead of Maelor, but Jaehaera can't be killed because she has a huge role to play with Aegon's next heir. Could maybe be Maelor, a newborn, instead of a 2-year-old, but that would scramble up the timeline, which is a bit of a mess already. I have no idea what Ryan has planned, if indeed he has planned anything, but given Maelor's absence from episode 2, the simplest way to proceed would be just to drop him entirely. Lose the bits where Alicent tries to send the kids to safety, drop Rickard Thorne, and send him with Willis Fell, so Jaehaera has 2 guards. From what I know, it seems to be what Ryan is what Ryan is doing here. It's simplest, yes, it may make sense in terms of budgets and shooting schedules, but simpler is not better. The Bitterbridge scene has tension, suspense, action, bloodshed, and a bit of heroism, and a lot of tragedy. Rickard Thorne is a I'm not going to say that word because I cannot say it. Character at best. Most viewers, as opposed to readers, will never know he is gone, since they will never know him at all. But I rather liked giving him his brief moment of heroism, a taste of the courage and loyalty of the Kingsguard, regardless of whether they are black or green. Okay. I mean, I can read the rest of it. Just sure.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, I'll read it. Thanks, Eric. Do you have it up here? All right. Let's see here. The butterflies are not done with us yet, however. In the book, when word of Prince Maelor's death and the grisly manner of his passing, page 505, reaches the Red Keep, that proves to be the thing that drives Queen Helena to suicide. I mean, unaliving herself. She could barely stand to look at Maelor, knowing that she chose him to die in the Sophie's Choice scene. And now he's unalived. In truth, her words having come true, the grief and guilt are too much for her to bear. In Ryan's outline of season 3, Helena still unalives herself for no particular reason. There's no fresh horror. Oh, by the way, spoilers, guys. Spoilers. Because of stuff and things. There's no fresh horror, no triggering event to overwhelm the fragile young queen, and the final butterfly follows soon thereafter. Queen Helena, a sweet and gentle soul, is much beloved by the small folk of King's Landing. Rhaenyra was not, so the rumors began to arise that Helena did not unalive herself, but rather was unalived by Rhaenyra's command. The commons are quick to believe them. The night King's Landing rose in a bloody riot, I wrote on page 506 of Fire and Blood. In the beginning of the end for Rhaenyra's rule over the city, ultimately leading to the storming of the Dragon Pit and the rise of the Shepherd's Maw that drives Rhaenyra to flee the city and return to Dragonstone, and her unaliving. Almost done. Maelor by himself means little. He's the small child that does not have a line of dialogue, does nothing of consequence but unalive. But where and when and how, that does matter. Losing Maelor weakened the end of the blood and cheese sequence, but it also cost us the Bitterbridge scene with all the horror and heroism. It has undercut the motivation for Helena's unaliving, and in this, notifications, and in that turn set thousands into the streets, into alleys, screaming for justice for their unalived queen. None of that is essential, I suppose, but all of that does serve a purpose, and it all helps to tie the story together so one thing follows another in a logical and convincing manner. What we will offer the fans instead, once we've unalived the butterflies, I have no idea. I do not recall that Ryan and I ever discussed that. Back to when he first told me they were pushing back on Aegon's second son, Maelor himself was not essential, but if losing him means that we lose Bitterbridge, Helena's unaliving, and the riots, well, that's a considerable loss. And then there's a layer, and there are larger and more toxic butterflies to come if House of the Dragon goes ahead with some of the changes being contemplated for seasons 3 and 4. Germ. So. All right. Well, he's very upset about Maelor.
I can see some of his perspective, but so much about Helena has been changed that I feel like this decision wasn't made without considering that, like taking into consideration the butterfly effect. I'm absolutely certain they have a plan.
Yeah, because I mean they
let's wait and see if that plan, like, let's see if it, conveys well, because if it doesn't go well, then I can understand George's frustration. But I feel like with making that big of a change, there has to be a plan set into place for how that's all going to work out.
Thanks, Grant, for telling me about the archive so I could read the rest of it. I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, I think there's going to be a part 2 because he only talked about like one thing. I think there's more to come.
Unless that's really all he's mad about, but I highly doubt that.
I doubt that. That's just because that's very specific, and that could have been like, okay, I get it. You're upset about Maelor, but I feel like when he said this, quote, I do not look forward to other posts I need to write. Posts being
post plural, yeah.
That's gone wrong with House of the Dragon. But I need to do.
Yeah, and he only mentioned one specific thing, really.
Yeah, that was one thing.
I have some gripes with the show. The only thing is, and this is the thing that Estella and I discussed when we did our live together, is that we had massive problems with Game of Thrones. And the further that show got along, the bigger the problems were getting. Whereas with House of the Dragon, it's really like nitpick criticisms. And yeah, some of those nitpick things bother me. Like, some of it really does bug me, but not in the way Game of Thrones did.
Yeah. I mean, someone said in the comments, he was completely out whenever they cut Lady Stoneheart.
Yeah, well, I mean, George says he was being cut out of the creative process as early as, it was getting less and less after season 1. And you can see that. Like, they're taking a lot of things in a different direction. And I mean, I feel like it's partially like my fault for choosing to read all of the books after watching the first season. But that kind of set me up for, oh, why'd they cut this? Why is that not in there?
Yeah, see, I made it to season 4 before I picked up the books.
Don't get me wrong. Then, the show in seasons 1 through 4, the show is solid. They do a good job. I do have a lot of issues with how they handled Rob and Catelyn's storyline, because the changes that they made, they didn't need to do that. And it just felt ridiculous. I mean, having Rob being married to a completely different person for totally different reasons, and then not having Lady Stoneheart, which is a big part of the story, considering how all of that is playing out, and completely changing Barrick's storyline. It just, I don't know. Seasons 1 through 4 were good, but after that, the show completely flies off the rails.
Eric says, if he's mad about Maelor, he better be mad about Nettles.
Yeah, I mean, I am frustrated with Nettles too. That was one of my bigger frustrations, but I can see why they did it for television, because in television, I think that Nettles' story exists because, we had talked about before, the whole thing with Viserion at the end of A Dream of Spring after Dany sacrifices herself, and how people are going to have to naturally bond with dragons the way that Nettles bonds with Sheepstealer without blood magic. So I think that is a future look at that. But I don't think that the show feels necessary to take it that far.
I agree. And then also with Farrah in the comments, he better be mad about Nettles, Alyssa with Damon. That was just too far. And Ulf saying his Balon the brave son too. Yeah,
And then I don't think we're gonna get as far as Morning.
And then Silverwing just being okay with Ulf just stepping on her eggs, and she'd be like, okay, whatever.
Yeah,
it's fine.
some of that stuff to me was really weird. Like, and then like I've said before, like the filler in some of these episodes, like you could definitely tell the writer's strike was affecting the show, and yet they still pushed on. I don't agree with that. Like, push the date back and make sure that the show looks right instead of it looking like there's a ton of filler.
We would have waited. It wouldn't be.
I mean, yes, it would have been kind of a bummer not to have the hot D summer. But at the same time, if the show doesn't look exactly the way it's supposed to, like, I have to believe that the decision to make Jason Cregan, like, that scene so short, and yet have a whole sequence of Alicent just floating out in the middle of a lake, like, what is that? That makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah. Did you watch any of the behind the scenes?
Some of it, yeah.
They spent, okay, so they made huge, intricate sets. Instead of going to location, they just built these sets. And I get it, like, so they can use it for future seasons. But you can tell where the money was spent. And I get it, like, having these types of armors. Like, I made a whole post about this. They made Aegon's armor and they made Daemon's armor. I mean, they both took almost 20 weeks apiece on making and crafting this armor. And I wonder how much, like, they had to pay for the skill and the labor and the material costs to even make those pieces of armor. When, I mean, really, they could have made a 3D printed armor, which everybody was saying, oh, Aegon's armor is 3D printed, blah, 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 blah. That's actually, like, real metal working, when people really just, like, thought that could have been 3D printed.
That was like, metal on his head. That looked like crap.
All of that was crafted. All of it was crafted by an
armor. Oh, my.
Yeah, a blacksmith. Armorer? I should know that better. But no, that was crafted by metalsmiths.
I hear blacksmith and my mind goes immediately to Steely Pate.
Mine goes to Mickens.
Steely Pate's my guy, man. That's my dude right there.
Yeah, poor Mickens, though.
You don't need no fancy armor. You need it to be functional.
Functional. I wouldn't be if I came face to face with the mom whose son killed my son.
What now? I wouldn't be.
Okay.
I would came face to face with the mom.
I think that Alicent knows that Rhaenyra didn't send the order to kill Jaehaerys. Maybe for Aemond, because she knew that Aemond was a monster.
Oh, yeah, I think Farrah's talking about, how Aemond, like, it being Aemond's fault. But I also don't think that Rhaenyra holds that against Alicent. It's not like Alicent told Aemond to do it. Aemond did that all on his own. I think the problem is that Alicent let Aemond go around unchecked and didn't, like, raise him in any way, shape, or form. So he's a monster that Alicent created. So yeah, I can see that from that perspective, Farrah, that Rhaenyra, like, wanting to be anywhere near Alicent doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But I also think that from Rhaenyra's perspective, she's just trying to avoid war at that point. So it really doesn't, like, it doesn't matter. She's trying to de-escalate this. And then by the time we get to it in the finale, we see that Alicent is the one who is much softer and wants to run away together. And Rhaenyra is like, I mean, that's cute and all, but no. I mean, it's too late for that, baby. Like...
Oh my god. I'm this game. I cannot stop.
And then there's another thing that I think that a lot of people had a problem with in the show, where they're like, they say that Alicent just agrees to Aegon being publicly executed without fighting it. it's not about that. And you really have to pay attention to what these actors are not saying and look at their body language and how things are coming across. Alicent couldn't even say yes. Like, she had that horrified look in her eyes the same way that Helena did. And you can see the tears like welling up. But she understands at that point that it's either save 2 of her children and her granddaughter, or everybody dies. So she knows that Aemond and Aegon have to die. Like, there's no other way out of that, or everyone's going to die. That's the only reason why she agreed to it. So people have to remember that these characters are being faced with impossible choices. Absolutely impossible choices. So, and Alicent's reaction in that said it for me. Like, she wasn't even able to answer Rhaenyra. She just kind of barely nodded.
Yeah, like, it was just like, we're just not going to talk about that. Yeah, Eric, Notablog is back up, but it's still just September 3rd.
Well, I mean, I think that he might just be editing it. Like, that may be it. Or maybe he realized that it sounded petty. We'll see.
Yeah, he's getting called petty on Twitter.
Well, I mean, I don't think it really. I mean, I don't know. I guess it does matter to George because he doesn't really like getting too much. I mean, he can't even have anybody ask him about Winds of Winter without getting visibly irritated. So,
yeah. So leads me to, I don't even know what to say. I just don't even know what to say anymore. Like, I'm just right there with the agreement with you. Like, I'm just not gonna.
Listen, I want George to be able to voice his own opinions. He's the author. He has every right to say what he has to say. But I don't know, maybe do it in a different way instead of dropping a random blog post where you say that, all the things that went wrong with House of the Dragon, and implying that the show was terrible in season 2, and then just run off for 2 days and give no explanation. And then when you finally post your explanation, it sounds just kind of, I don't know, minuscule. Like, it doesn't sound like it's that big of a deal. But if it was that big of a deal for him, then I don't know. I get lost. I was lost when I heard that George was signing off on House of the Dragon to begin with, because I was like, man, after Game of Thrones, like, you're really going to let them do it again? I mean, I do. I think that Ryan did a much better job. But at the same time, I'm just surprised that George was even willing to entertain HBO doing any more adaptations after that. Because he admits himself that his voice was not heard in Game of Thrones. And we see it, George. We see it. You are not in a Game of Thrones. I mean, you're in the first season, and then you're in, like, the next 3 after that, kind of, and then you just disappear. Like, everything about what George represents. Oh, except for Cersei's Walk of Shame. They managed to include that in season 5. The only canon thing they included in there was the part where a woman had to be nude.
Yeah.
So that tells you everything you need to know about Dan and David.
We went with Prime or Netflix because for a clause of, I always stood by with the decision to go with HBO, but HBO also did force a lot of nudity and gore at the very beginning to get quote unquote attention for the show. Oh, the show has tits and ass, you should watch it, blah, 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 when there's not that much in the book. When there was just, like, unnecessary nudity. Just like I feel like there's unnecessary nudity in season 2, like the whole frontal for Aemond. Like, I'm just like...
Yep. Everything was... but honestly, like, I expect that from HBO. I do expect it. The part that I have such a problem with is that Dan and David did not respect their actors, who were very vulnerable in these scenes.
Yes, and that is in How to Kill, or Fire Cannot Kill a Dragon, like the way that they treated Jason Momoa, how they treated Emilia Clarke in those very early seasons with the, what is it called? Intimacy?
Yes.
Director? Like, it was like non-existent for them.
Yeah, see, that's just that's crap. So,
All right.
Yeah,
well,
I
I'm
probably
going
need to jump
I'm
off
gonna go
because
ahead
I'm going to be live in 30 minutes.
So everybody, yeah, unnecessarily exposed in many episodes. I agree here. So we're gonna take like a 30-minute break, and then Ashley's gonna get on. I gotta make some phone calls, but we'll see
See you in a
everybody in just a
minute.
little bit. Thanks for joining mine. Just stay tuned for Ashley's. Take care. Yes, Eric's Ashley's solo live. Bye.